IMJC says that's why I don't open carry. Absolutely. I open carry. We're going to get to that next. I'll tell you why I open carry, and I'll give you a really important example of why I do that. But if I ever think I'm going to be in a situation where I need a fast draw, I'm covering it up so that I, don't lose the initiative and reveal that I have a gun. I only really open carry when I feel safe, and I do it for this reason. Let's talk about it. So, recently I saw this image. Can you see this, Kason? Let's see.
Yes.
This is that crowd of Nazis, or I guess people giving the Nazi salute to Hitler, by the way. I researched the situation. That's the story I'm going to tell you next. I found out who this guy was and what he was up to and why he didn't salute, and I'm going to tell you guys the story. It's really cool stuff. Anyway, what got me thinking about it was seeing this meme with the masks telling you to, be this guy, resist fascism. You have a crowd of people all giving the Nazi salute, and this guy's just sitting there like, I don't think so. Love it. I love it. Kojul says, yes, I posted that earlier in another Discord. Yeah. So this was the highest resolution, highest quality. I'm going to hide us for a second. Version of this photo that I could find. And I was just marveling at just how much we've seen this photo over the past 10 years, how many memes it's been created, how many times you've seen people show it off and tell you to be that guy, to be that 1 in 1,000 that dissents and doesn't go along with the sheep. And I'm just marveling at the bravery or the fortitude to be this guy. It's awesome. It's awe-inspiring. I love this photo. It's like a bastion of hope in a fucking sea of Nazis, literally Nazis.
Not what Antifa's called it. Like, this is back in the Germany, like when it's happening.
Like Hitler was in front of the crowd, I found out. Like Hitler was there, and they didn't publish this photo. The reporter didn't publish this photo because it showed a dissenter to Hitler. It was like years later in another publication where they published this photo. So I was looking at this guy and I'm like, okay, hold on. I've been a photographer for years, and I know that a lot of times you'll catch a moment that tells a story that isn't at all reality. Like, this just shows a moment. Maybe this guy wasn't feeling well, and he was just kind of like, kind of squinting or, blurring, just kind of, maybe he just finished coughing, so his hand came down and he was coughing and he was wiping his hand on his sleeve. Maybe he was sleepy because he was overworked. Maybe the sun was in his eyes and he was just like, maybe he did this and was about to put his hand back up. It could have been like any long list of things, but the moment this photo was taken, it was like this. Okay, so this could just be a fluke, and this could have just become a meme that a lot of people have used to... Camel Toe Jockey says, his arm was cramping from hailing Hitler all day. Yeah, that could have been it. Totally. So I decided to see if anybody knew who this guy was or knew what the story behind it was. And it turned out, guys, to be like everything that you wanted it to be. Like, this guy was not just like, his arm wasn't just cramping. This guy was the real deal. And I wanted to tell you a story. Before we get into it, I will say that a family did a lot of research. The descendants of this guy did the research and claimed it was him. Another family, this guy, Gustav Wegert, his family has now recently started claiming, no, it was our granddad or whatever, and this is the picture they gave for proof. I'm sorry that I don't see the resemblance, whatever. So I'm going to go with maybe the more commonly accepted story of what happened. This was the guy looking like a boss. Look at this guy.
He looks good.
He does.
He looks good.
His name was... Hell yeah. His name was August Landmesser. Landmesser? I don't know how you say it in German. August Landmesser. I don't know, whatever. We're going to call him August. The story is terrible and tragic, but I want to tell it. 1930s Germany. This isn't that. This is 1930. It's 2020. It's not that long ago. 1930s Germany economy was destroyed in 1930, which led to the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party. This is 1930. The economy was shit. A lot of people are out of work. He needed a job, and he thought political associations would help with that. And so he signed up to become a card-carrying member of the Nazi Party so that he could have his membership card that he might get some work out of. Except in 1934, August fell in love with a Jewish woman named Irma Eckler. This was the Jewish woman that he fell in love with. So 4 years after he joined the Nazi Party, he fell in love with a Jewish woman.
Hide me. Let's see her all the way.
Oh, is it not big enough? Okay, there we go.
No, just hide me. I'm covering her up.
Okay, I can hide both of us while I tell the story.
There you go.
Okay, I'll fuck it. I'm not important. I'll be invisible. So he's a literally card carrying member of the Nazi Party and falls in love with Irma Eckler. 1935, they got engaged, which resulted in him getting kicked out of the Nazi Party. Their marriage application was denied under new laws that were passed banning marriage to Jewish people. Later that year, they had a baby girl named Ingrid. That's their little girl, Ingrid. So that was 1935. They had Ingrid. 2 years later, 1937, they attempted to flee to Denmark and were stopped and held at the border. August was arrested and charged for dishonoring the race. The law that he broke was dishonoring the race, and he was imprisoned. So the picture that you saw of him not saluting, did I lose that picture already? I think I did. Oh, I closed it. Whatever. You guys remember it. That was from in between 1935 and 37, when he had fallen in love with this woman. He had had a child with her. And then at the shipyards that he worked at, Hitler gave a speech. And everyone around him was giving the Heil Hitler salute, when Hitler was obviously standing against his wife and child. And so what did he do? Did he go along and to get along? Did he do what he needed to do to fit in? No. He just stood there like a fucking boss and didn't salute. Ugh. Ugh. So, 1937, after this, 1937, they attempted to flee to Denmark, were stopped and held at the border. August was arrested and charged for dishonoring the race and imprisoned. 1938, a year later, he got acquitted for lack of evidence. But apparently, in that country, like all countries, they're not laws. They're not nations of laws. They're nations of men. So he was immediately rearrested a month later, basically for the same crime, except this time they just directly sentenced him to hard labor in a concentration camp, and he would never see his wife or daughter again. A law was then passed that required the arrest of Jewish wives in cases of men dishonoring the race, and pregnant Irma, she was pregnant when this before he was sent to the concentration camp. Pregnant Irma was bagged by the Gestapo and sent to various concentration camps, at which she gave birth to Irene. I believe this is Irene. Yes, it is, as an older child. This was one of the last photos taken of him when he was still with his family. And this was after he had been sent to the Gestapo. And right before Irma was sent to the concentration camp. So the law was passed for Jewish wives of men dishonoring the race. She was bagged by the Gestapo, sent to concentration camps, and she gave birth to Irene. So actually, I guess this photo was later, but she gave birth to Irene in the concentration camp. Both kids were taken and sent to an orphanage. Ingrid is the older one, lucky to have the status of half caste, half Jewish, was sent to live with her Aryan grandparents. Irene was about to be taken from the orphanage and sent to the concentration camps herself, but a family acquaintance grabbed her at the last minute and got her away to Austria. Irene made it back to Germany and was then hidden in a hospital ward where her Jewish identification card was lost, and she lived under the noses of her oppressors until after their defeat. 1941, August was released and worked as a foreman. 1942, wife and mother Irma, his wife, was murdered in the gas chambers at Bernburg. 1943, they drafted August into a penal infantry that was sent to fight in Croatia, where he was killed in the fight, went missing and was presumed dead. And then 6 months after that, Germany surrendered. So, I get teary-eyed reading that story. Like, just to be a guy that stands up for what's right in the face of an entire throng of people. that photo is even more inspirational now than before, when it was just a guy not saluting like everybody around him. That's awesome. That's awesome. So
there's something that I heard Larkin say. The most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. I think I put that at the start of one of the videos that we put together for him. And if this is the case, like if this is true in August and all this happened, like he took away so much power through his conscious decision to not just not salute, but do the things that are moral but not legal, and do the things that he wanted to do with his life while his atoms were briefly put together in the organization that they were while he was still living.
Yeah. You know, lifespan is limited. We're all going to die anyway. It's like, what do we choose to do while we're alive that might be remembered for literally hundreds of years after in photos like that? He had no idea probably that photo was about to be taken. It's not like he posed to make the point as a point of activism for that photo. It's probably not like any of that. It's that he, in a tiny way that he probably thought was going to be imperceptible to everyone around him, mostly, maybe except for that immediate crowd. There's no way he would have imagined that in 2020, some people would be broadcasting his story to the world. But it was because of that tiny little moment that sent a very powerful message that echoed through history and will continue to echo through history. And so it's for reasons like that I do things like open carry, and that I do things like politely leave an establishment that demands I wear a mask when the mask that they're making me wear is just absurd and non-functional and it's a big farce. Or when it's why I go through my life as a general rule, not to like pose for the camera and make statements constantly. It's just, I want to send little ripples out wherever I am every day that will maybe have a larger effect in ways that I'll have no idea. Like his two girls survived. I think one of them is actually still alive right now. I could be wrong. She wrote a book on it. But like, imagine what a legacy, man.
It's a good tale.
If you still believe you have an obligation to bow, then you're like, come take it. And they say, that's illegal. And you say, okay, you can have it.
Is that the clip that you had?
Yeah, it's coming up in just a sec. Yeah, keep it going.
Okay.
We have voted to kill you and take all your stuff. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And when a tank doesn't have a tank driver in it, not really a threat to us anymore. When we don't let them have control of our brains, then they don't have control of our bodies.
That's all. Because I saw that image whenever I was putting that together. I didn't know the whole story behind it. I was just like, okay, cool. Someone dissenting in the midst of a Nazi rally. That's like, that encapsulates the entire idea of what's the right word? Whenever you disobey a law, social disobedience, or it's like a nice disobedience of laws. Like, oh, I'm gonna sit at the front of the bus. Fuck you. You know, what's the right word? I can't think of it, but there's a word for it that people use.
Yeah, I can't think of it either, but I know what you're talking about.
And it's happening now with all this gobbledygook going on as far as people afraid of, you better wear a mask or else you're the boogeyman and that sort of thing. I'm seeing a lot of people that are not ANCAP, are not, they wouldn't even say they're like freedom oriented. They're apolitical, right? They're non-political. They don't care about politics at all. They're coming out and they're like, oh, civil disobedience. That's the word. I can be, like what is right is not necessarily what is legal. And I'm like, oh boy, what a fun time to start having a discussion. Whenever people, they take off their masks because, man, I was just furniture shopping today, hence the desk. But I went to a big furniture store and there's a lot of space in it and we want to shop for a bit. So at the front door, put the mask on or whatever. And then once I'm through, it's like, all right, no one's around. We're good to go. And then I left it on while going up like 3 flights of stairs. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I wearing this stupid piece of shit in front of my mouth while I'm climbing stairs where there's no one at? And I realized if I do that, I wonder how many other people do that, but don't become self-aware. If you still believe
you have an obligation to bow, then you're...
Sorry.
Oh my God, Patrick, what have you done?
Wrong button. Go ahead.
No, I wonder how many other people just go with the flow, kind of like they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to swim upstream or what have you. And then they're not even conscious of that. They don't become conscious of that because I wasn't conscious of it while going up the stairs. But whenever I got to the top and I was breathing in and fabric was like up to my mouth, I was like, wait, what the hell? Why am I doing that? I should have taken the elevator, but but why am I doing this? And I became self-aware at that moment. I wonder how many other people just take the blue pill and stay asleep. Well, I guess I should change this to red, but whatever.
Well, it's certainly easier. It's like if you hide your principles to fit in, or for any reason, if you hide your principles, if you don't act on your principles, it's kind of the same thing as your principles not existing. Like if they don't affect your behavior, then a principle just exists in your head. And if it only exists in your head and it doesn't affect your behavior, then your principles do not affect the world in any way. They're ineffectual. They're non-existent.